YouTube reviewers are like seagulls. They're always hunting for free food and they love cake. That doesn't mean if 5 of them came for help, I would turn them away. I posted a video a couple of days ago sharing my thoughts and reasons why I returned the DJI Osmo 360, and I thought I'd spend a little bit of time going through some of the comments. So let's get started. The first few comments were pretty benign, quite nice comments actually. Some were thanking me for my honesty about the camera, others were sharing their own concerns they had with the device, but then after a few hours he started to slip a little bit. I'm going to read a couple straight from there. So the first one was I thought it was fairly innocent at first until I had a look at the profile of the commenter. So this guy said, I too have a Insta360 camera and I've found the editing to be an absolute breeze. We have similar laptops and I don't see what the problem is. So yeah, so just a contradictory comment. Wouldn't think nothing of it. I replied when I was very pleased he'd had a good experience with it and that possibly it's just user error on my part. And then I clicked on his profile and noticed that he was actually a fairly popular reviewer with lots of reviews on his channel, but predominantly from DJI. And when I dug in just a little bit further, there was a couple of videos where he was stated that whilst he wasn't sponsored in any way, he did receive the camera for free, yada yada yada. So that set the tone for the next few comments. Let's have a little read through. So here we have, I'm not going to name anyone here, it's not about naming and shaming, it's just giving you a little bit of context about comments and content on YouTube. So this guy, I think it's a guy, he wrote, the studio issues you were talking about are pointing to an underpowered computer for processing 360 footage. You need a lot of processing power. I don't have these issues and I am using exactly the same camera and software. I replied there that my MacBook exceeds the minimum specified recommended by DJI. God, that was awful. I really should proofread my replies. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Have you tried editing with Premiere Pro? What other 360 cameras have you used? A few comments further down and we start to get some of the other type of comments. And again, if it was just the odd comment, I probably wouldn't have thought anything of it, but there seemed to be a batch of similar comments. So the first one mentioned that the the Osmo 360 doesn't have replaceable lenses and that it would be potentially a deal breaker for many users. So yeah, I didn't really mention the interchangeable lens stuff. My previous 360 camera was an Insta-X3. I've had that for a couple of years. No interchangeable lenses. I occasionally use lens covers if I've got it on the bike, but more often than not, I just take the lens cap off and film. Haven't really had any problems with it. Dropped the camera a couple of times and it's not really suffered any scratches. But that was the first one about the lack of a feature on the DJI, and then we've got more and more. I'm looking at getting my first 360 camera and the fact that you can't replace the lens is a massive drawback from me. That comment was from someone who has previously reviewed the Insta360 X4 and the X5, claiming that the X5 is an absolute deal breaker. So think of that what you will. Got a few comments about my running on the video. The title of my channel is a little bit of a giveaway here. I appreciate your thoughts, but why do so while running instead of sitting down somewhere? Now I am sitting down here because I wanted to read, and I'm on an unfamiliar trail, so I didn't want to run around whilst reading my phone and also trying to frame myself in my camera. So I'm sat down. For your information, I also returned the Osmo 360 due to software issues. And then we've got another comment here about please stop running in your next video. Quite amusing. And there were lots and lots of other comments that individually I probably wouldn't think twice of. I don't generally get a lot of engagement on my videos. I'm a very small channel, just a couple of hundred subscribers, and usually my running videos may get 100, couple of hundred views, 1 or 2 comments and a couple of likes. But it's only really since I've started talking about the kit I'm using that I've actually got quite a bit of engagement. I definitely don't chase engagement. It's not a goal of mine to monetize this channel. It's just really a diary for me. And a way of learning how to use cameras and tech and to film myself as I'm moving around. So it got me thinking. Let's have a little walk as we're going. So it got me thinking about honesty, integrity, and kind of doing the right thing. And I follow quite a lot of YouTubers. I started off with YouTube quite some time ago. My kids got me into it. They were constantly filming themselves doing gymnastics and BMX tricks and stuff like that, and they were posting on YouTube. They were a little bit too young to post on their own channels at the time, so they borrowed my login and started uploading stuff onto there. And I've made all those videos private, by the way. I think you can probably find them if you had a look around. And you know, I've never wanted to delete them. My kids are much older now, so it's a nice little memory for me to look back on a time when my kids were younger, and I can look at what they were doing. So my first serious post, I'd say, was probably 2 or 3 years ago, where I took my camera out on a run, tried to do a little bit of talking to camera and talked about my thoughts and feelings about running and so on. And then subsequent to that, I did a couple of event videos which got quite a lot of interest, and then I've moved on from there. I've since started using other social media platforms, TikTok in particular. I do prefer that because of its short form. It only takes me a couple of minutes to produce a daily video on that platform, and I don't really need too much technical knowledge. I just hold the camera in front of me, shoot the video, do a little bit of a chat, and then I can post it as it is on TikTok, and people will engage and chat on there. But YouTube takes a little bit more work, a little bit more care, and it requires a higher level of knowledge to do it properly. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in any shape or form, but I have been doing it a little while. I started off using a GoPro, and I used that for work, which at the time I was an endurance coach, swim trainer, and I was using the camera for recording swimmers underwater and playing back later and analysing the strokes. And I'm not sure which model it was. I think it was probably a GoPro Hero 3, possibly a 4. It had a big thick plastic case on to keep it waterproof. There was no usable audio other than the sloshing water noises, but the picture quality was absolutely superb. And I used to take that out in the hills with me and just take photographs, take little short video clips and just save them on my old computer. Never in a million years considered actually posting those videos anywhere. Didn't really have an outlet for them. YouTube was quite in its early days, and I didn't consider myself sufficiently qualified to actually post any opinions or do anything other than consume content on YouTube. And then as the years rolled by, I purchased a newer camera, and I started to watch content from more specialist creators. mostly people who shared similar interests to me. There was a lot of cycling channels I followed, and one in particular was a guy from lived down on the south coast of England, and he was a cameraman in his day job, and he also had a tremendous passion for cycling. And I found his content extremely engaging. The production values were super high, and he mentioned on one of his videos that he used a particular camera and that it had been a bit of a game changer for him in producing his content. So I looked up the camera, and lo and behold, it was the GoPro Hero 10. And having come from a much earlier iteration of GoPro, when I tried it out, it was indeed a game changer for me. And that was what really started me on my journey of producing content and posting video clips of me running. And, you know, I was really thankful. I messaged the guy, I said, thanks for the heads up, I really appreciate the video, and it started me on my journey, and we conversed quite a bit from then on. I used to comment on most of his videos, and, you know, we had a really nice backward and forwards. And then about a year or so later, I noticed one of his new videos, and he's got a slightly different camera, or the look of the footage was slightly different. And he's talking about his next camera, which happened to be an Insta360 X3. And suddenly this was a game changer, and this was his next big thing, and he's going to use that for all his content moving forwards, yada yada yada. So again, I trusted this guy. I'd known him for a little while, and I thought, well, I'll give this camera a go. So I picked up the Insta X3 and started using that for my content. And flash forward a couple of videos later, and this same guy's talking about another Insta360 product. I'm not sure which camera it was. I think it might have been one of the small Go cameras. And he's talking about that as being a game changer. And then right at the very end, he mentions that Insta360 had reached out to him and offered to send him the camera to try out. And that rang the first alarm bell. So I thought, well, you know, he's getting gear for free. Can I really trust this content? I never went ahead and purchased that particular camera, even though on his previous recommendations I had made the lunge and bought cameras. And on other videos he was posting after that date, he was flitting between the two cameras he'd been given and singing the praises. And then a competitor brought out a new camera, and he made a fuss about doing a review on that particular camera. I think it was one of the early DJI action cameras, and his very first line was, "This is a unbiased review. I've purchased this camera with my own money, so I can say exactly what I feel about it." And he went on to completely slate the camera. You know, he was really super critical, picking up every small nuance and comparing it to other devices and showing up its weaknesses. And I thought, whoa, this must be a really, really poor camera. So I did a little bit more research, and I found quite a few other videos of a similar vein. And the more and more I looked into it, the more it became apparent that these so-called unbiased reviewers were anything but. And most of them, if you go through the posting history, had actually reviewed other brands' cameras. In fact, I'm going to name them. It's Insta360, and had stated in their video that they had received free cameras or free gear in exchange for a review. And then we had the whole scandal of Insta360 trying to dictate to reviewers what they would and wouldn't say, asking them not to mention that they got the video, got the camera for free, and that they were being given the footage before it was being released and posted. So we had all that, and that really did it for me in terms of camera reviews. But we did have a short period of time where things appeared to get better. It felt like we're having a drift back to the good old days of honest reviews and people getting cameras. I don't mind people getting free gear, by the way. I don't even mind people being paid to do reviews. That's absolutely fine. The issue is the lack of integrity around it. You know, if it's quite clear that this is a paid review, and some of the best review channels do them from time to time, then, you know, they still produce great videos and give you a lot of information, and you can then make an informed decision knowing that that person has been paid to produce the video, or he'd been given free equipment, which is the same as getting paid in my opinion, and had produced a more of an advertising piece rather than a out and out review. And that's absolutely fine, it's great. You know, otherwise, how would we get information? We don't know. Video companies can produce glossy advertisements where they showcase the cameras in beautiful locations, shooting silky smooth footage with crystal clear audio. And it doesn't really tell you much about the actual device, it just showcases all the best parts of it. Can you see there we've got Tenby over in the distance? We're actually on holiday at the moment down in South Wales, going home later on today. It's only been a short break, but it's been lovely, and I've been enjoying some of the local coastal paths and trails. So anyway, I digress. But lately we seem to have drifted back into the mire of dishonest, maybe dishonest is too stern a word, but misleading content. So what can we do to change this? One commenter on my recent video told me to stop watching YouTube and don't use it then if I disagree so much with the content. He happened to be a quite prominent tech reviewer with lots of reviews from one particular brand of cameras. That could possibly be a solution to my particular issue, but it won't change the fact that you guys are out there shilling punters and pushing gear on the back of lies, untruths and shady practices. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call it out. I'm not going to call it out publicly on my content, but I will comment whenever I see a video what I'm not sure about. I'll ask a question, I'll give the creator a chance to reply. I won't descend into name calling and arguments, and I'll see what they say. And if it turns out that it is a sponsored review or a paid review, or the creator has been rewarded in any other way than his own YouTube presence, then I will consider calling it out publicly. And I think if more people do that, I'm only a very small channel and don't really have any influence whatsoever, but I know a lot of you guys have got more substantial followings, and you can actually use your platform to share this message and to get through to these creators that they can't continue to mislead people, and it's wrong. So should we have a go at doing that? I'll get to work sleuthing a little bit. I'm not going to stop watching review videos. I love my camera tech, and I definitely enjoy watching the content created by the guys, but I'm going to have a slightly different outlook on it now, and I'm going to be looking for those little nuances and inaccuracies whenever I'm watching. And just to counter that as well, if I see a review which has been done, in my opinion, the correct way, and they're very upfront from the beginning about their motivations for producing that particular review, then I will highlight those channels in future videos and try and point as many people towards those creators as possible. Right, so that is probably one of the longest single takes I've ever done. I'm going to get cracking with my run now. We've got a lot of packing to do before we head home later on today, and I'll get it posted as soon as I can. Please don't forget to like and comment your opinions and views on this subject. And if you do enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing and catching up with future videos. But for now, my name's Paul, and that was Paul Runs Daily.